Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most embarrassing military failures for Russia, the so-called invincible T-90M tanks that couldn't even last a single day on the Ukrainian battlefield. These tanks were supposed to be the pride of Russia's modern armored force, a weapon designed to dominate, but instead, they've become one of the most visible symbols of how far the Russian war machine has fallen. Let's uncover why these tanks failed so spectacularly, what really happened on the ground, and how this exposed the weakness behind Putin's propaganda of military strength. The T-90M, often referred to as Prorov or Breakthrough, was marketed by Russia as its most advanced main battle tank. It was designed to replace aging Soviet-era T-72s and T-80s, and it featured improved armor, advanced sensors, and a modern fire control system. The Kremlin presented it as proof that Russia could still produce cutting-edge military technology capable of rivaling NATO's best. State media boasted that the T-90M was nearly unstoppable, protected by advanced reactive armor and equipped with an upgraded 125mm smoothbore gun capable of firing modern shells and even anti-tank guided missiles. But in Ukraine, theory met reality and the results were humiliating. When the first batches of T-90MS arrived in Ukraine, Russian commanders were confident. They were told these machines could resist Ukrainian anti-tank missiles and drones. But the battlefield doesn't care about propaganda. Within hours of being deployed, Ukrainian forces using a combination of drones, artillery, and portable anti-tank weapons began hunting them down. In one now famous engagement, a T-90M barely made it into position before it was detected, targeted, and destroyed by a drone-guided artillery strike. The tank's massive explosion, caught on camera, sent shockwaves through Russian military circles. The tank that Putin had labeled invincible lasted less than a day. The problem wasn't just bad luck. It was systemic failure, a mix of outdated tactics, flawed assumptions, and overconfidence. Russian tank crews were sent into open fields with minimal infantry or air support, making them sitting ducks for Ukrainian reconnaissance drones. These drones fed real-time coordinates to Ukrainian artillery and anti-tank teams, allowing them to strike with deadly precision. The T-90M's supposedly high-tech defenses, like its relict reactive armor and SH-1 countermeasures, were useless against modern Western-supplied weapons like the Javelin, NLAW, and the Ukrainian Stugna P. What makes this worse for Russia is how expensive and rare these tanks are. The T-90M costs millions of dollars per unit and takes significant time and resources to produce. Each loss isn't just another burn. Without vehicle, it's a direct hit to Russia's already struggling defense industry. Western sanctions have cut off critical components like advanced optics and electronics that Russia used to import from Europe. Without these, production has slowed dramatically. For every T-90M destroyed in Ukraine, it takes months, sometimes years, to replace it. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces have adapted faster than anyone expected. They've learned how to spot, track, and destroy Russian armor using a combination of intelligence, drones, and teamwork. In the early days of the war, Russia relied on shock and awe, sending tanks deep into Ukrainian territory, expecting to crush resistance. But as the conflict dragged on, Ukrainian soldiers developed a playbook for dealing with even the most modern Russian tanks. Drones are now constantly circling the battlefield, spotting Russian armor the moment it moves. Within minutes, artillery fire or precision, guided munitions are on the way. Putin's generals tried to hide these losses, but social media made that impossible. Videos of burning T-90MS spread across the internet, showing massive explosions and ammunition cooking off inside the tanks. Each clip was a blow to Russia's reputation. What was supposed to be a symbol of national pride became a meme of military embarrassment. Ukrainian soldiers began mocking the invincible T-90M, calling it the one-day tank. Even Russian bloggers and military channels started questioning how such a heavily marketed machine could fall so easily. The truth is, no amount of propaganda can cover up poor strategy. Russian forces are still fighting a 21st century war using 20th century tactics. They deploy tanks in tight formations without air superiority, without proper reconnaissance, and without coordination with infantry. The result is predictable disaster after disaster. Even the best tank in the world is helpless if it's blind and unsupported. Another issue lies in how Russia maintains and trains its crews. Many of the soldiers operating T-90Ms are poorly trained conscripts or mobilized men with minimal experience. A tank's strength isn't just its armor and gun, it's the skill of the crew inside. Ukrainian crews, on the other hand, have become veterans through constant combat and Western training. They've learned to use every weakness in Russian armor design, from thin turret tops to exposed fuel lines. The T-90M's supposed improvements can't compensate for the human factor or the lack of it. As the war dragged into its third year, Russia's losses became harder to replace. Factories are under sanctions and resources are limited. Even when new T-90Ms roll off the production line, they're often missing critical components, fitted with cheaper, lower-quality substitutes. Reports from captured tanks reveal Chinese-made electronics and old Soviet parts being reused. In short, Russia's new tanks aren't truly new, they're patched-up relics trying to look modern. On the Ukrainian side, Western technology keeps evolving. NATO intelligence helps locate Russian armor in real time. Precision-guided weapons make every strike count, and small, inexpensive FPV drones, often built in garages, have become the deadliest threat to Russian tanks. A drone costing a few $100s can take out a tank worth millions. The economics of the battlefield have turned against Russia completely. Every destroyed T-90M represents not just a tactical loss, but a strategic humiliation. Putin's propaganda machine tried to shift the narrative. Russian state TV claimed the destroyed tanks were older models, or that they were hit by overwhelming Western technology. But satellite images and wreckage photos proved otherwise. These were the newest, most advanced T-90Ms, and they were being destroyed almost as soon as they appeared. Even the crews began losing faith. Intercepted communications revealed Russian tankers begging for air support or refusing to advance into areas crawling with drones. The myth of the invincible tank had been shattered. The downfall of the T-90M is part of a larger story, the unraveling of Russia's illusion of military superiority. Before the invasion, the Kremlin sold the world an image of a powerful, modern army ready to crush any opponent. But Ukraine has exposed the truth: outdated equipment, corrupt leadership, and poor morale. The T-90M's failure is symbolic of this entire collapse. A shiny shell with rotten foundations beneath it. What's even more striking is how fast Ukraine has turned the technological balance. While Russia struggles to build a few dozen T-90Ms, Ukraine is deploying hundreds of smart drones, guided munitions, and remote weapon systems. The future of warfare isn't about heavy armor, it's about information, speed, and adaptability. The T-90M was built for a war of the past, not the kind of dynamic, drone-filled battlefield that exists today. Every destroyed T-90M sends a message not just to Russia, but to the world. It shows that brute force and intimidation can't overcome innovation and determination. It shows how a smaller nation, fighting for its survival, can outthink and outfight a much larger adversary. It's a reminder that technology alone doesn't win wars. Strategy, courage, and adaptability do. And yet, Putin continues to pretend everything is fine. He stands before cameras and praises the T-90M as a masterpiece of Russian engineering, while his soldiers watch those same tanks burn in real life. Russian propaganda keeps showing polished footage of tanks on parade, trying to maintain the illusion of strength, but on the battlefield, reality keeps proving otherwise. The more Putin clings to this illusion, the more disconnected he becomes from the truth of his own failing war. The images of destroyed T-90Ms lying in muddy fields have become powerful symbols of resistance. To Ukrainians, they represent justice proof that the aggressor can be defeated. To the world, they reveal the limits of Russia's military might. To Putin, they're a nightmare he can't control. Each wrecked tank erodes the image of invincibility he's tried so hard to maintain. As this war continues, one thing is clear: Russia's once feared tanks are no longer the kings of the battlefield. The T-90M's short-lived legacy has proven that old doctrines can't survive new realities. Drones and precision weapons have made even the most advanced armor vulnerable. The age of unstoppable tanks is over, and Ukraine has made sure the world knows it. When future historians look back on this war, they'll remember the T-90M not as a breakthrough, but as a failure, a symbol of arrogance, denial, and technological stagnation. The tank that was meant to prove Russia's dominance ended up proving the exact opposite. And that's the painful irony for Putin. His invincible creation turned into his greatest embarrassment. Every destroyed T-90M isn't just a burn. Doubt shall it's the collapse of a myth built on lies, corruption, and blind pride. So, the next time Russian state media boasts about a new wonder weapon, remember the T-90M. Remember the tank that lasted less than a day. Because in the end, no amount of armor can protect against truth, and the truth is, Russia's war machine isn't invincible at all. It's falling apart, piece by piece, tank by tank, right before the world's eyes.